Well, President Cyril Ramaphosa has given the green light for a memorandum of understanding between Ministers of Electricity and Public Enterprises. The agreement now clarifies responsibilities between Kgosientsho Ramokgopa and Pravin Gordhan. Let's get you some analysis on the story. We're joined this morning by Professor Sampson Mamphweli. He's the head of energy at the SA National Energy Development Institute. Prof, it's great to have you with us on the program. Thanks very much for coming on. And it's been almost a year, right, since Kgosientsho Ramokgopa's appointment to this position, around 10 months or so. A lot of criticism since his appointment just because there was no clarity around his job. Effectively, there was no job description. Does this clear all of that up now?
Good morning to you and the viewers. Yes, this is something that was supposed to have been done right at the beginning. However, since the beginning, since his appointment, Minister Ramokgopa has been working closely with Eskom. It's only that he couldn't exercise authority over the Eskom board when it comes to aspects around the President's Energy Action Plan, as well as the efforts to deal with load shedding. But he has been working closely with Eskom, giving updates and things like that, based on kind of a handshake agreement that he had with both the President and the Minister of Public Enterprises. He was given some powers that were taken partly from the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, formerly, that one of ministerial determination, basically working with NICOM to determine the energy requirements, and also doing ministerial determination in terms of how much electricity should be procured from which technologies, all the way up until it gets a concurrence from NERSA. So that part was cleared, and then now this particular MOU clears the way in terms of him interacting directly with Eskom and exercising authority over the Eskom board when it comes to issues that have got to do with the load shedding. And that is quite proper because he is the one who is working closely with the National Energy Crisis Committee that is dealing specifically with that particular aspect. The Minister of Public Enterprises remains the shareholder representative. He is still dealing with the breaking up of Eskom into the various business units going into the future, as well as dealing with the electricity market in general, basically the unbundling of the electricity market in general going forward.
Yeah, so as it turns out, from having no job description at all, the electricity minister now has quite a long list of priorities that he's in charge of. You talk about the Eskom board. He is now in charge of the Eskom board as well. He'll focus on the National Energy Crisis Committee. The minister is also responsible for overseeing the Energy Action Plan and Eskom's Generation Recovery Plan. So as I say, from a lack of clarity to now a whole range of things that fall under the ambit of Kgosientsho Ramokgopa. Do you reckon he's up for the job?
Yes, I think some of these things he has already been doing them. For instance, he's also responsible for the transmission grid plan, which he has already developed, working closely with Eskom and presented to Cabinet. And he was given some inputs that he is now working on. Because we've got a lot of problems when it comes to the transmission lines. So this is nothing new in terms of the job description. It's just formalization of things that he has been doing. He's not responsible wholly for the Eskom board. The Minister, the Public Enterprises Minister, is still responsible for the board as well. The Minister of Electricity is responsible he can exercise authority on the Eskom board only on aspects that have got to do with Generation Recovery Plan, Transmission Plan, the implementation, as well as the implementation of the Energy Action Plan in general. So those are quite specific in terms of where he can come in and where he should stop. When it comes to issues that have got to do with the unbundling of Eskom and things like that, he cannot enter that particular territory. It still belongs to the Minister of public enterprises.
Right. And of course, the big question is, all of these decisions need to be about addressing our country's energy crisis, right? We've been through a festive season now of repeated bouts of load shedding. Does this MOU now take us closer to finding those solutions?
The MOU just formalizes the interaction of the Minister of Electricity with Eskom. It's a good thing. It's a good step towards the right direction. In terms of us dealing with load shedding, there are quite a number of things that still need to happen. The Minister of Electricity needs to deal with the transmission grid so that it can be able to receive renewable energy, for instance, in the Northern Cape, in the Eastern Cape, and the Western Cape. So that still needs to happen. You recall that the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy couldn't announce about 3,200 megawatts or so that qualified to be connected, but because of the transmission grid issues. There are issues around the generation capacity, the breakdowns that we have at Eskom power stations. Those need to be resolved. If you look at the draft IRP, it specifies the fact that the Eskom generation fleet, especially on the coal side, was supposed to be operating at 75% energy availability factor, as indicated in the IRP 2019. And that has not been happening. It's now sitting at about 54% energy availability factor. So the Minister of Electricity needs to deal with that and ensure that it moves to about 70% energy availability factor. Then we can see the end of load shedding, and then bringing in new generation capacity going forward, as indicated in the draft integrated resource plan. Those efforts, including the new generation capacity that will come from the IPPs as a result of government opening up the space by removing the licensing requirements. All those efforts are the efforts that will lead to us dealing with load shedding.
Yeah. Just a few efforts that still need to be done, Prof. Mamphweli. What kind of timeline do you reckon? You know, we were promised the end of load shedding at the end of 2023. Here we are, almost deep into January 2024. What kind of timeline do you reckon?
So it's quite difficult to give a timeline specifically because there are aspects that need money. For instance, the demand response aspect that can take away about 3,000 megawatts. It needs funding. National Treasury needs to make available something in the region of 5 billion rand for the Minister of Electricity to implement that. The generation recovery plan, it also needs money. Government has made available about 256 billion rand for Eskom to cover the debt so that they can get money from their balance sheet. But their balance sheet does not have that kind of cash. So there are some decisions that government needs to make in terms of making liquid cash available for Eskom to be able to deal with the generation recovery part of things and deal with the breakdowns as well. So it's quite difficult to give a timeline until such time that these efforts are firmed up in terms of the financial resources requirements. If that is firmed up, I would say within the time of 6 to 7 months, load shedding would be the thing of the past.
Yeah, you talk about a timeline. Time is also ticking to elections 2024, right? It's going to be a big issue, not only for the ANC, but for opposition parties as well. Professor Sampson Mamphweli, let me thank you for your time this morning on the AM Report.